Other side. Conversation on a wide range of topics. Our podcast is dedicated on giving you and us a platform to express our opinions freely, maybe. Share your thoughts, experience, ideas, and hear from a variety of perspectives and honest opinions. Rare occasion, honest. Join us as we dive into the latest pop culture, politics, and so much more. From rants about absurdity of modern life, discussions about deeper issues affecting society as a whole. The Rant Network has got you covered. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Have a coffee like David on this journey of discovery and exploration. It's time for the Rant Network. David, we just came off a weekend. It's noon. The world seems like it's on fire. Everyone is focusing on the media and Donald J. Trump, former past president. But you know what, David? We're going to take one out of our playbook and not have a rant about how absurd what's going on in the media today, because the media as a whole has forgotten about every other news issue. Some of them are really, 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 really serious, like kids getting murdered in a high school, shot up. Really? David, I was absolutely horrified hearing this story. And again, many networks have totally forgotten about this. And I'm glad that you reminded me, and we're going to talk about it today. David, take it away, bro.
Well, you know what, Stuart? Thanks. And I got to tell you, this was a story that when you were away, I wanted to rant about, but I wanted you to come back because you and I have been on slightly different sides when it comes up to guns and gun control and laws and all that. And we're not here to necessarily talk about that. Well, I want to talk about how 1 week after this horrific shooting, the media, as you said, has dropped this way, way back of a media cycle. And it's no longer as relevant because now politics being politics, they politicized, and I'll talk about that in a second, this entire incident, of course, in Nashville. We've talked about Donald Trump and his incarceration and his guilt and his this and his that. You know what upset me, Stuart, when we heard the story was once again a shooter went into an elementary school. Okay. And yesterday, and part of why I'm reminded of this is yesterday at the Country Music Awards, which you would think is filled with people from who are gun lovers and they're country music lovers. They must be right-wing MAGA Republicans, right? I mean, that's how the media likes to describe them all. The reality is that yesterday one of the performers stood up there, and other than she sang with a bunch of drag queens, commented about what happened in Nashville, which led me to this morning's rant about so what are we focusing on here? Are we focusing on the fact that there was a tragedy, that children were killed? No, we're focusing on transgender rights because the shooter happens to be transgender, and the left wants to move away the focus from the fact that this was a mass shooting to the fact that somebody in their quote unquote base is going to be impacted and LGBTQ rights are going to be impacted. And wow, how can we tarnish the memory of these 6 people who were killed? Stuart, I'll go in one step further, and it also drives me crazy, is the fact that at Uvalde in Texas, way back when there was the mass shooting and the kids, it was a horrific situation. An hour and a half, the police didn't come in. It was an absolute mess and a nightmare, and people died because of that. The police came in and did a phenomenal job. In about 14 minutes, the situation was under control, which under circumstances is expedient. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. Instead, the president of the United States comes out and says that the number one killer of children in America is guns, to which the CDC had to come out and said, no, Mr. President, that's the number 7 killer of children. Car accidents are the number 1. But why should we deal with facts? Once again, we have to politicize a horrifying situation. 3 9-year-olds were killed. 3 9-year-olds were killed. And instead, what we do is we talk about mass shootings, and we talk about all mass shootings is the same thing. That someone going into an elementary school is the same thing as a gangster going in Chicago and shooting up more than 2 people. So that is equated. We talked about that there's more mass shootings per day, per week. We throw out statistics, but what we're not focusing on here is this situation. One Republican, politician suggested that this should be investigated as a hate crime because it happened in a church. Stuart, if it happened in a synagogue, a mosque, a temple of some kind, people would be saying we should be investigating this as a hate crime. Instead, the Biden administration said it's no chance it's a hate crime. So what we're focusing on here in a great tragedy is, once again, politics on the left, politics on the right, making the scene completely ugly. And instead of advocating for the right and the wrong, what we're doing is we're trying to pull political punches. And Stuart, it makes me ill that the memory of these people are going to be tarnished over this bullshit. Stuart?
David, there's a constitution. There is a rule of law. What seems to be the facts are today, the left doesn't want to follow the rule of law. They want to follow their laws. Agree with me or get punished by thee. And they don't see this as a class of people that deserve any protection, like any Asian American, no different than any transgender kid shooting up a bunch of Christians. It's a license to shoot Christians in the United States by President Joe Biden and his administration. The lack of fortitude of him seeing the difference between, yes, this is 100% a hate crime. Just because Christians represent the largest population in the United States doesn't mean they can't be targeted, doesn't mean they can't be shot up, doesn't mean they can't be persecuted. It's not very common. I will give the president that. But again, the president doesn't even probably realize what a Christian is anymore. He doesn't know what planet he's on.
But his whole party doesn't want to know it anymore.
His whole party, the Democratic Party, the year Hillary Clinton was running, I believe that is the year they removed religion from the Democratic Party's charter completely. Religion doesn't belong. I think the creepy little head of socialism and of totalitarianism begin with the following. You want to remove the religion. You want to decentralize the kids as being property of a state. You want to take away, I hate to say it, David, the arms of every law-abiding American. Now, I believe there needs to be laws for law-abiding Americans, and there has to be rules in place to prevent non-law-abiding Americans. But the weaponization of the Department of Justice, the weaponization of courts and politicization of courts, unfortunately, is taking a new phase in the American way of a quarter thousand years, 250 years. It is mind-boggling that anyone would object for the right to bear arms. Because if you start removing these rights, what rights do you have left?
But Stuart, again, you're doing it. You're doing exactly.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
No, we're not talking about again. We've politicized it again. But you're doing it again. You're doing it again. You're doing exactly what I just said. We are not focusing on the tragedy. What you're focusing is on gun rights. Why?
No, I'm focusing on that there needs to be rules for obtaining guns, which is something that they're not. Now, these rules have been put up with blocks and bricks and towers in front of them because everyone that's on one side of this equation is afraid the other is going to weaponize it. And that is, believe it or not, the issue with this amendment, right? I believe there needs to be rules. I believe there is no reason to have a howitzer or a tank in my backyard. However, the other side of the political spectrums want to take that information and persecute those people. If you have a statement against me, you're a criminal. But again, the focus needs to be that this is 100%, in my opinion, a hate crime. A hate crime caused by someone who's not of the right mind. And these people that died and their families deserve the right to watch this person burn as a hate
Well,
crime.
the person is dead, so burning nothing. But you have a situation right now, Stuart, where once again you hit this is the politics that gets in the way. What is the situation? What is the situation? The situation is that you have people who can easily walk in to an elementary school and shoot. And what do we tell the school? It's your responsibility to put up more security guards. You know what? Communities have done that already. Okay? If you look around right now, whether it is the Muslim community, the Hindu community, the Jewish community, all of the religious sites, they're being highly encouraged to put up more security guards. That the responsibility to defend themselves is incumbent on the religious institution. We can no longer rely on the state to protect us. We have to do it on our own. That's not being discussed here. What's not being discussed here right now is how someone who had known psychological issues recorded was able to obtain 7 guns legally in 5 different
You
stores.
see, but
The
David,
system is
that's where we
broken.
agree. That's
Right,
wrong.
the system is
100%.
right. So I'm not a fan of this gun control business, and you're gonna call me a soft Canadian and call me whatever you want. I find it absurd. But the amazing thing is that we're going to talk about the fact, and if you look at on NBC and if you look on CNN and MSNBC and whatever, they're pointing to the Republicans and the right who are the blockers. They're the ones who are blocking gun control. If I remember correctly, didn't Joe Biden have a majority in the Senate and the House for the first 2 years of his administration, and not a single, like, they moved the needle, what, 3 centimeters, 3 inches? Like,
That's
come
no
on.
different than Obama having his. But then the Republicans had theirs. They're a bunch of blowhards, David. No one wants to solve problems. They
Agreed.
just want to remain in power. And that's
Look,
on both
look,
sides of the aisle.
it's both
They
sides of the
just want
aisle.
to remain in power. Yeah,
But
David, I agree.
But the thing is that here, you talked about a hate crime. You talk about is going to be a hate crime, and of course the left doesn't like religion. The left wants to secularize society. The left is. But the
But
funny
that's
thing,
actually a little story. You're saying the left, the left, the left. Most of the left doesn't really understand that.
it doesn't
But
matter, Stuart. That's an
I
excuse.
think
That's an excuse. That's not a. Stuart, if you listen, you know what? I'm listening to a book by Tom Ziegler, Zig Ziglar's son. Okay, and he's encouraging in his book. You know what? Find God. It'll make you feel good. And he goes through his whole thing about how to make your life better. And he says religion is a great part of it. And it's up to me. It's my choice if I want to listen or read or respect what he has to say or not. But I don't want, but the fact that we have movements that are trying to completely, you know, destroy religion as a whole. Come on. And you know what? If the reason this transgender individual went in and she was upset because of the Christianity and the Christian beliefs or whatever, and there is a manifesto somewhere, we're not sure yet what it is. It would be horrifying to hear this. But Stuart, in conclusion, I'll let you have the last word. This is insane. It's wrong. The children were killed. It was senseless violence. And all that the two parties want to do is point the finger at each other that they're at fault. And it's god awful. And it's, you know what, it's high time. Someone has to pay. I don't know how, but someone's got to pay for this.
David, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning and listening to the Rant Network. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, even though it's sad and hard to garner, and gain some valuable insight. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us next time for a more thought-provoking conversation every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social. Share us with your thoughts. Share your thoughts with other people. Remember us. We're always interested in hearing from you, our viewers. You make us do what we do. Learn about the topics in advance of talking to you. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep on ranting.